Hi guys, welcome. Danny here from the Magic Junk Drawer. So I wanted to go live quickly today to talk about a couple of different things. Of course, the law of attraction, which I've been trying to work with because, like I was saying yesterday, I feel like in the past I have, you know how they'll say self-fulfilling prophecy? I see the way that I've created some of the really crappy things in my life that have happened to me in the past. And who hasn't had crappy things happen? We all have. But I see where I allowed myself to be victimized by some of these situations, whereas I could have been more in power and I could have been more controlling of my own destiny. But I always sort of felt like things happened to me rather than me being in charge. So, trying to change that after all these years, it's somewhat difficult in the beginning, but like everything else, it's a constant practice and we have to practice. And it's funny because that's the one thing that we always stress in yoga. It's a practice, it's not a perfect. If you came into the yoga room and you did everything perfect, your first class, there would never be anything to work for, and there would never be any sense of I've accomplished it, I've done it, I can't believe I did it. For example, one of the first arm balances that they teach you to learn is it's a posture called crow, and it's sort of like the prerequisite to do the other arm postures because they say that you need to be able to do crow before you can move on to some of the other more difficult ones. Now, when I first started doing yoga and was up to the level where we were doing arm balances, I remember thinking to myself, oh, I can't wait till the day that I can do that. And then the first time I did it, it was like, I was so excited that I was able to do it that I just wanted to show everyone that I could do it. That's how excited I was. Now, if I walked into yoga the first day and did it, there would be nothing to strive for. There would be nothing to achieve. You've already had it. And the sense of accomplishment comes from achieving something that you didn't have before, right? That's with everything. And that's why I think sometimes people that are very successful sometimes at some point in their life fall into trouble with something because they have nothing left to work for. So it either becomes an addiction or something like that, where because they just can't get that feeling from anything else because they've already accomplished it all. Especially people I think that are very young when they achieve a lot of success. So that's one thing, but it's also about your perception. So this was interesting. The other day I went to work. The school that I work at, where I'm like a counselor. The kids, kids are honest, and I mean, I personally love honesty, and I tend to be a very honest person. I think you can say things in a nice way, but I value somebody being honest rather than somebody lying to me and telling me what they think I want to hear. So I happened to be wearing a dark lipstick that day, and it was probably like a dark maroon color. And I normally wear like a neutral shade when I'm at, like every day. I'll put on something that's like a glossy but light, probably like something like this. So when I walked over to the table of the kids that I had, one little boy says to me, "Oh, you look so nice today," because I was wearing a different lip color. He noticed it. So a couple of hours later, I was in another situation and I was talking to one of the other kids, and this other little boy came over to me and he goes, "You look like a clown today." And then there was another little girl there, and she was like, "I don't think that you look like a clown," because she could tell that wasn't a very nice comment that he made. But it's the honesty about it, and it's his perception. There's not. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I would rather have somebody tell me that you look like a clown and I hate it than somebody tell me that they think it looks good and they really don't. So whatever. But it's the way we perceive things. Like I had this conversation with somebody. My natural hair is very curly, and so is hers. And she said to me, for every time that I flat iron my hair, I have half the people tell me how much they love it, and then when I let it go back to curly, I have half the people tell me how much they love that. It's sometimes I think it's just the change. It's like the change is different, and that's why sometimes we're like, I just need a change. I just need to do something different. So it's very interesting how we perceive things. So if you're the kind of person that's always allowed situations to victimize you, and you're always the victim of the situation, and I'm talking like this goes back to like when I was a child, or like even in high school. Like I remember being in situations with my friends where I was so embarrassed by something that somebody did to me, and it was done to me. Like you knew that this was going to hurt me, you did it anyway. You knew the chances of it coming out were very great because nobody can keep a secret. And then you have those people that want to cause drama, so as soon as they find out, they're going to tell you. But I allowed myself to be victimized by the situation, and I kept myself in the situation. Every time I had somebody pull a shitty stunt, if I put my foot down and said, you know what, I'm not taking this anymore, go fly a kite, I may not have been in that situation ever again. And that's where it's my fault, but I'm learning now how to change that. And also having it in my head, oh, so and so is more important. My friends would rather hang out with their friends rather than me. It's not a big deal. Go ahead, go. I'll go do something else. Instead of taking that attitude like I'm not as important, I should have had a different attitude with, you know, because the truth is that people will always expose themselves for who they really are. So sooner or later, all these fly-by-night people that showed up that were more important than I was were out the door just as fast because that's who they were. And that's what was being exposed. And that's were the lessons that my friends needed to learn. Anyway, so aside from all that, you're in a situation and you don't want to be victimized by it. So how do you put yourself first? I think that a lot of times we grow up thinking, and especially if you grow up, and you know, I don't like to get into psychology or anything like that because I don't believe in like cookie cutter. Like I don't believe that everybody that is born as the oldest child will be more responsible. In fact, I had two friends who were sisters, and the younger one was my friend first, and she was much more responsible than her older sister was. So, and they would admit that to you. If they were sitting here right now, they would they would admit that. So I don't think that cookie cutter is for everyone. But I do think that there is something to the way you grow up with, if you have to take care of somebody or you're responsible for, you know, whatever it is. And if you don't do it, then it comes back to you. Like I was the oldest, so I had to come home from school. I was really young too. Like come home from school, open the front door, get my brother in, do your homework. Make sure that I called our mother so that she knew that we were home. Like that, I had a lot of responsibility. So putting other people's needs before mine came very natural to me. So now when it's like, when people are like, you know, you have to put yourself first, it's a very awkward feeling for me because it's not something that I've ever done before. Like I've always put other people's needs before mine. And, you know, I say this all the time. I always thought that I did it with my relationships with men. But looking back, I do it with my relationships with everybody. I do it with my relationships at work. I do it with my relationships with my regular friends. I do it with my relationships with my family. I don't say no to anybody ever unless it's something I really can't do because I'm at work or something. But if I'm not at work or I don't have another, you know, commitment, I will do anything anybody asks me, even if it puts me out. So it's very interesting when you try to change that and it's not in your it's not in your DNA to put other people behind you and put yourself first. But sometimes, you know, you're always going to come in second if you keep putting yourself second. So changing that mentality and thinking about that, and also thinking about what you assign meaning to, like assigning meaning to holidays, assigning meaning to birthdays, assigning, I mean, people make such a big thing about Valentine's Day, and I'm like, you know, if somebody has to go and spend $70 on a bouquet of flowers because it's February 14th and they're going to be in trouble if they don't do it, I don't want those flowers. And I worked at a grocery store long enough to know that I would see men come racing in at 7 o'clock at night on Valentine's Day, like put together anything. I don't care what it is or what it costs. I can't go home empty-handed. That's not the kind of situation that I ever want to be in. And because it's not that important. Like the date on the calendar, I mean, my ex boyfriend from years ago is so funny. Our anniversary was the day before my birthday. And for the life in him, he could not keep the two of them straight. And I used to find it funny because I'd be like, oh, you know what today is? And he would be like, oh, happy birthday. And I would be like, no, it's not my birthday. But the date on the calendar wasn't important to him. It wasn't a big deal. So why should I make it a big deal and assign meaning to something that has no meaning? You know, if he had to set 25 alarms just to remember the date, then what does it mean? That you pretended to that it was important? It's not important. It had him not remembering what day the anniversary versus my birthday was not a big deal. It had nothing to do with the way he felt about me, and I knew that. So why make a big deal out of nothing? So be careful with what you set, you know, value to, or this means that. If he doesn't do this for me, well, then it means that. And if she doesn't do this for me, well, then it means that. And if my boss doesn't tell me what a great job I've done, then they don't appreciate me. It's not true. The truth is that sometimes we do take people for granted, and sometimes we have other things going on in our minds, and we're not really thinking about things that other people do for us. It doesn't necessarily mean that they don't appreciate you. Sometimes they don't, but most of the time it has nothing to do with that. So it's really interesting when you start looking back on your life and you start thinking about, oh, well, he did this, so it means that, and so on and so forth. And I mean, a lot of my friends and I would, like, we would debate these kind of things. And I had one friend she would always say to me, and she was so right, just because you would react in a situation like this doesn't mean that everybody else will, and it doesn't mean that they're wrong and that they don't care. Like, for example, I would say, well, if I really mattered, then X, Y, and Z. And she would say, yeah, but that's because you would do X, Y, and Z. It doesn't mean that everybody else would. Sometimes people are so paralyzed by fear that they can't see their way out of it. And sometimes the fear is more paralyzing than anything. And they say that you make your decisions from one of two places, love or fear. Somebody who's making their decisions out of fear is not making their decisions out of love. And, you know, and it can be love of anything. Like I bring up the situation with, say you were afraid to fly, right? You're desperately afraid of flying. You do not want to get on a plane, but your company is going to send you to California for a conference. Well, you have to either make the decision out of love, right? That you're not going to go because you're afraid to fly, or you make the decision out of fear where I'm more afraid of losing my job and I'm more afraid of telling my boss that I'm not going to go. That's where you're making, it's only two things. There are only two ways that you can make that decision. Fear of losing your job and putting your fear of flying behind you and just biting the bullet and getting on the plane because you're afraid to speak up for yourself. Or, sorry, the dog walked by. Or you're making the decision out of love for yourself and you say, no, I'm not going because I'm not flying. And that's it. I'm scared to death and I'll take a train, a bus, I'll drive a horse, but I am not getting on a plane because I'm scared. And we all have these different fears, which they say, so interesting. I don't know if I have a copy of it here anymore because I think I gave it to one of my friends, but I read this book called Many Lives and Many Masters, and it was really interesting. Dr. Brian Weiss is the name of the author, where he was like a textbook psychiatrist, I believe. I read the book a long time ago. And basically he had a client who had all of these fears. Like she had a lot of fears, but there was no reason behind them. Like she was afraid of water, but she never had a near drowning experience. She was afraid of flying, but there was no reason behind that. And nothing he did was helping her until he started to hypnotize her. And she started to go into past life regression, which, you know, I'm on the fence with that too, because you know, how do we really know that that's what happened? There's no way to prove it. And I guess I'd like to see a little bit more science behind it. But the book is very interesting if you get a chance to read it. It's an easy read, and it's really interesting about the things that this woman went through in the process of trying to get past her fears. But we all come into this with some kind, I mean, everyone's afraid of something, right? Everyone's afraid of something. And sometimes they change, like sometimes you conquer a fear and then you have a new one. I guess it's part of being human. And it's very interesting that, what's he doing, this guy? It's very interesting, like when you talk to different people and you get different opinions. And some people, like when they give you their opinion, you'll be like, I can't believe that, I never would have thought of that. And it's happened with me and a number of my friends where they've pointed out something like that I just never would have thought of. And it doesn't make either one of us right, but it's just another idea. But if you look back on your life and you think, like the example that I always give is my day job. It was a full-time position, and I always knew that they were going to get rid of me if layoffs came, because first of all, I felt like my job was going to be taken over by the computer, and they weren't going to need me. And even if they did need me, they wouldn't need me full-time because the computer would be taking away half my job. I always felt like I'm going to be the one to go, and I was. And it was something that not only did I think it, believe it, feel it, but I constantly said it too. So, was there any reason why I should be shocked when it finally happened? I mean, I was in the meetings, like we were having meetings with the new software, and they were explaining what the computer was going to do. And I even said, I'm like, this is going to take over my job. You're not going to need me. And of course, the way companies are, they're like, oh, well, we're going to have something to do. Blah, blah. I knew that they weren't going to need me. But that was my train of thought. And it didn't happen right away. Like, I think that was probably like the beginning of the year, like November, December, going into the new year, we started with this, and they got rid of me in June. So that manifestation manifested over 6 months, but it happened exactly the way I said it would happen. It really did. And I called it. I mean, was it a psychic prediction? No. I put it out there. I constantly repeated it. It was something I constantly thought of. When they started cross-training us, that really solidified it for me. And like, they're cross-training us so that they're getting rid of one of us. And if anyone's going to go, it's going to be me. I knew that. And that's exactly what happened. But it was something that was in my head, in my belief system, and something that I put out into the universe. So if you can do it with that, then you can do it with anything. You just have to think about it, believe it, feel it, talk about it, and then there it comes. So, it's like they say, I don't want to get too much into religion, but if religion was really designed to control us, and we were taught that if you're a bad person, you're going to hell, and you're going to get hit with the devil's got his pitchfork hitting you in the butt, or you're going to be a good person and you're going to go to heaven where there's clouds and angels and peace, you're being controlled. But maybe, like God, I've created you in the image of me, so maybe you are in control of what your destiny is. Maybe all of us that are self-sabotaging, and I have some people in my life that are so self-sabotaging that whenever I think of that about them, I always go take it back to me, and I'm like, okay, they're reflecting this back at me, I must be doing the same thing. So it's not a judgment call on that person, it's a judgment call on all of us. Like, stop it with this victim shit. Like, well, I can't. Well, in this day and age, you can do anything. You can do anything. I mean, really, you can do anything. I mean, there are people that have done amazing things. I mean, whether you agree with them or not, there are people that have changed their lives completely. People that have had great success. I mean, like it is what it is. I mean, there is no denying, like somebody like Bruce Jenner, who was an Olympic champion. He had 10 kids, motivational speaker, seems to be a really great father. I mean, I don't know him, but this is from what I've seen. His Most of his children seem to talk highly of him from what I've heard. And now he's a woman. He's really done it all. I mean, I was never much of watching the. I used to watch the Kardashians when it first started because I thought that the dynamic between Bruce Jenner being so conservative and the girls being so crazy and posing for this and that and Playboy, and then like it was funny. It was funny. Like he would be like out at like playing with his little airplanes, like the model airplanes, and I thought it was hysterical because he was like they were always doing something behind his back, and it was funny. But it crossed a line to me where it was no longer funny. It was starting to get really disgusting. Like I don't want to see you waxing each other's private areas. Like I don't want to see that. You know, I don't want to hear about why you eat pineapple because it does something to the way you smell. I mean, I just that to me isn't entertaining. But it was funny in the beginning, I thought. But here is somebody who, whether you love him or hate him, I mean, you can do anything. You can do anything. You can be anything. You can transform your life a million ways. So the only person that is holding you back is yourself. And it is something that I think about all the time because I take it back to myself. If I see potential in somebody else, I'll think to myself, well, I think that this person has got a natural talent. Like one of the kids at work, kid's 9 years old. This kid has got an amazing artistic skill. I mean, he is really an amazing drawer. He's 9. I mean, I can't draw like that. Most people I know can't. So like I look at him and I always say to him, keep cultivating that because you have a real talent here. It's a natural talent that nobody taught him. I believe some people are born with that. But I also believe that the kid sitting next to him can learn if he wants to. And so on and so forth. So it's really interesting when you think about, you know, and now you got to also think of it this way. I keep telling this kid how awesome he is, and he is awesome. But that's going to start to register in his brain. And it good or bad, somebody else may be telling him that he's shitty, and that's going to register. And whatever he identifies more with is going to go into his subconscious, and it's going to come out. Like I can draw, but everything is like a cartoon like I don't have like it's like everything is like a cartoon. I don't know. I don't know why, but it is. And my whole family, they're all artists, but for some reason I'm a little cartoon like with the things I draw. Hi, how are you? But my point is that if you focus on something, even if it takes a lot of work, you will get there as long as you just don't let other people convince you otherwise. I'm good. I'm good. Hanging in there. It's pretty cold out today, but I just came back from my run, and before I go to work, I figured I would jump on, talk a little bit about the law of attraction and some of the things that I've been working on personally. No, I can't twerk. I'll break something. I'll break something or I'll kill someone. And that's about it. So yeah, I can try. Yeah, I don't know about that. I gotta say though, I've watched videos of people doing that and it's kind of fascinating. I'm like, how do these people move like that? I don't have control like that. I don't have control like that over anything, let alone my butt. But I do find it pretty interesting. So I guess that's about it for today, unless anyone has any questions, anything that you want to comment. Oh, I can't. No, I'm not going to try it on. First of all, I'm wearing my pajama pants. Nobody wants to see that. I'm going to have to take a lesson from someone that knows how to do it, because I don't have any idea how to do that. But if you know how to do it, put up a video, send me the link, and I'll watch it. You know, it's funny. I just watched a video that it had these people in the gym, and this guy had weights in his hand, like big weights, dumbbells, and he did like a backflip. And I was like, oh my God, it reminded me. And I feel like I bring this up a lot. When I was a cheerleader and we were young, like I was a cheerleader like elementary school, probably up until about I was 13 or 14, something like that. I had a girl on my team, and I'll never forget. She could do all kinds of flips with no hands. I have no idea how she did it. She didn't know how she did it. She just did it. And this reminded me of that. But that's another thing when it comes to the law of attraction. She didn't know how she did it, but she did it. She knew she could do it, and she did it. And I'm not even kidding you. The girl would be standing in front of you with both feet on the floor, and then she would just flip over. Her hands never touched the ground. I have no idea how she did it. She didn't know how she did it. She knew she could do it, and she did it. And that was one of the reasons why we won the championship that year, because she was that good. And she could just do all these crazy flips. So, very interesting. Well, what you think and believe about yourself is what you really become. So, something to keep in mind. All right, if you like what we're doing here at the Magic Junk Drawer, don't forget to like and subscribe, share us with your friends, and we will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.